Welcome to the Belonging Project podcast. This is Fiorenza and I'm your host. The purpose of this podcast is to bring voices together to talk about belonging. Through inspiring, real-life conversations, we explore how belonging can show up in so many different ways, what it feels like to belong, and the impact of truly belonging. Each episode will offer you inspiration and practical strategies to find your true voice in your life and as a leader. Let's dive in. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Belonging Project podcast. Today I'm with Tommaso Maggio, and we're going to be talking about fatherhood, parenthood, how belonging shows up in that topic. Hi, Tommaso. How are you?
Hi, Fiorenza. Oh, I'm good. Thanks for inviting me, and very pleased to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Where are you based, Tommaso? Let's start with that.
Let's start easy. So I'm Italian, but I'm based now in Bangkok with my family and my daughter that is almost 5 years old.
And how long have you been based in Bangkok for?
Over 10 years.
Wow. Okay. So your daughter has been born. She was born in Bangkok then?
No, she born in Italy because me and my wife are Italian. She born in Italy, breed a bit of Italian hair, and then flew to Southeast Asia.
Right. Okay. Really cool. And I know you are the host of an amazing podcast called the Fatherly Edition. Perhaps we can start with that. You can tell us a little bit about your journey towards becoming a podcast host, and I'm sure there'll be things that we can pick up and unpack along the way.
All right, why not? So thanks for the question. So the podcast started basically in a quite unexpected way because during the COVID, basically, with my daughter, I had to find a way to keep her busy as every parent around the globe. So I started drawing with her. We draw a bit of everything, animals, her favorite animals, veggie, shapes, because at the time she was a bit over 1 year old, so not much complex things. So to draw those things, we use object around the house, like the clock or other round object, and we compose the shape crystal of a lion. And this build up at the end of the day, at the end of several weeks, we have so many drawings, so many sketches. Say, what we can do with that? And my wife kicked off the ideas. Why you don't put all together? Yes, and this became a book, 1 book, 3 books at the end of the day. And then we started on Amazon. On Amazon, somebody started to buy those books. And some parents contact me and say, listen, we have a community here in Bangkok, actually. And why you don't develop some content during this COVID, no? Based on your book. So basically, I translate those drawing in a lesson to keep busy parents and kids during the COVID. And that was a nice way to engage and expand the network in a very unusual situation. So step by step, this bring me to talk with conference, to talk with other parents, other people. But 90% of the time, people I talk with are women, especially on the web. And sometimes I say, why? So, and then the idea of the podcast pop up. So we need to raise the voice of the man, because nowadays, usually in the couple, men and women interchange the role, and we are much more active, I assume, at least a generation ago. So I know many, they are doing that. So I just start to record the voice of other fathers and the way just to connect and just share the way we do things, each of us in a different way, but we can learn, especially because most of us are far away from home, living abroad. So it's a way to connect, to learn from each other. That's basically a quick journey how things started.
What do you talk about on your podcast for those that haven't listened yet?
Well, week by week, I interview fathers and I ask priests that if they struggle with something particular on being fathers, what is the challenging and the beauty, you know? Because we know it's a long journey. There is no book, no reading, no podcast that can prepare you for it. But it's nice to see how each person has his own approach. And that's what I ask, basically, to share their own approach and what actually ask, what they learn from the kids. That's usually, as parents, we suppose we are the one who teach the kids, but at the end of the day, we learn from them every day. And most of the, the parents respond that way when we knock this point.
Yeah, yeah. So you are building a community of dads, right? That sounds like it.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, I completely resonate with what you've mentioned. There are so many communities online that are for parents, right? But somehow there is more of a representation of moms or women. And I completely agree with you. Our generation, certainly the roles in the house, in the household, is more equal than what it was even one or two generation ago, for sure. But perhaps there is less visibility still for
Yes.
that or in community. Yeah, that's something that I've noticed as well.
That's why I call the business of emotion, somehow. Because between men, it's easy to talk about business, whatever business, we can talk for hours. But when we have to talk about something more intimate, that seems a bit more difficult. Probably we are not used to share this side of our face. So I think it's sort of encapsulated in our DNA.
Yeah. And how do you address it on your side? Do you have any tools, any tips, anything like that?
To encourage dads to talk,
Yeah.
yeah, I knocked the door by asking to the wife or the partner, because, to have, I mean, if I send 10 requests, only one or two respond. So maybe nine respond, but at the end of the day, I will have a conversation with only two of them, at least recorded conversation. I assume it's not easy for somebody to open up, not because sometimes I'm a stranger, but even with close friends. So I don't see it as a taboo, but somehow it's something, again, we're not used to. As you say, in the online community, 90% are women or talking about family. And I think it's just a matter of perception that anyway is changing. It's interesting to see how. So
Yeah.
that's why for me it's important to just pick up those voices that one want just to share. It's not showing up. It's just share their own experience, and then and that's it. So we don't pretend to be the best or the perfect. Just the idea is we are doing these things. That of course there is somebody that's willing to share, somebody less. That's always the case. But again, it's not easy to find dads or men open to talk about their own family.
Yeah. Yeah. And perhaps you can tell us more about your own experience, but just interested in hearing your thoughts here. What about fatherhood in the workplace? The space that is given to that, in terms of talking about it or just, being a father.
Yes, that's another topic that I raise all the time with my fellow, and how even you balance life, working, and being a dad. So most of the time they say they try to balance. It's just a never-ending trying. Is a commitment. Some say is a commitment. The fact they say, okay, once you have children, so you need this is a focal point. So you, when possible, you make the other things moving around. Of course, that's not always the case because not all the jobs are flexible enough to do that. But at least I see the willing of all those that I'm talking with. So they try to put, for instance, in the calendar, where are my kids' activity, and then play around those things. But still, if you look at a company, how much time they give you off for a newborn, some companies still give you just a few days.
Yeah.
And not that the women get so much. I mean, it seems, but fatherhood, parenting, affect the business world in every day, in every possible way. So if business do not face this and make this as a normal point, that is feel something's wrong, still wrong. We talk about inclusion, diversity, and but then a normal process as have a newborn is always, for instance, a question that an interview asks to women, for a new job. Do you have children? Are you about to have children? How old are your children? As a man, I never have those questions. I know because, for example, my wife or other friends I know, any field ask the same question.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean,
I
where
know
is
it
those?
happens, doesn't it, to be asked this question? It's quite crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And man seems that when they got 2 weeks, seems wow, we got 2 weeks off of the job. Well, some company and some country are moving in the good direction, but
Yeah.
still we can count how many country so
Yeah.
far.
The pace isn't always the same, but there's still a lot to do. On this, actually, I'm curious. Have you noticed anything? I guess the big differences. What are the big differences that you've noticed, perhaps, in terms of how Italy is handling, paternity leave versus Bangkok?
Well, I when I had my child, I had a sort of paternity leave, but I was working for a company in Bangkok at the time. I have actually only a few weeks, just 4 weeks, and then that was not easy because my daughter born in Italy, and while I was working here. But even in Italy, the policy is not that nice. I mean, still a bit behind compared to other North European countries. Of course, again, depend most of the time depend of the company you work with. But again, the idea even in Italy is to extend the paternity leave. But seems again at the end of the day, that's the idea, and then every company is free to do whatever. Of course, there is a limit. There is even here in Asia for each company. But no, in Italy, there is much more to do. We see even the news about what happened every day against women, and seems that all this is because there is a sort, I think, a lack of information, a lack of proper action to gender equity. So gender equity is not just you put 50% of women on the board. It's much more. But most of the time is politics. But politics again is the reflection of what we do in our daily life. So we don't expect politics to change. You need to change your company that you own or you work with from it and within. But not many are heavy or strong enough to carry and to want and to be the one who wants to change things. So
All right. And perhaps let's move a little bit into belonging. How did it impact your sense of belonging when you became a father?
well, it's a huge impact because first, as an Italian living in Asia, raising my daughter here so far, it takes time to me first to understand where I was for a long time no, because Italian back and forth to Europe all the time, and deciding to living here. Of course, as a parent, that's why we create a community. So I just help this community, and this community, for instance, with kids called Bimbi Italiani, is created by a friend of mine, and my wife now is on the board. Both of them, they are creating a lot of activity to make Italian kids, even born here with even one of the two parents Italian, to have the idea of Italian culture, bring some festivity, some tradition here. And that's what we try to do even in our family. So we create our own Italian version of tradition where we are. So we appreciate where we are. I mean, understand we are in Asia. We appreciate what is the local culture. It's good because my daughter, so young, is a sort of sponge. She can absorb everything. So, and that's what we try to share with her. So, belonging is basically understand where you are and where you come from. So, and then if you can twist or better, if you can merge the two things, that would be fantastic. It's a work in progress.
Yeah. Yeah. How would you define belonging at the moment? I know it's often a concept that grows as we grow.
Yes, I think one on one hand is belonging for me is belonging to my family first, the family I create, and that's the first part. Second part, be aware again of where you come from. So these are two things that basically structure who you are. And it's a sort of self-reflection. Talking about belonging is a really self-reflection, and that works in a professional life and a private life. I think until you don't are self-aware of who you really are, what you belong on, you're a bit out of focus. Not in front of others, in front of yourself. As you say, that and then change time to time because it's a journey.
What do you see next on your journey?
Who knows? Is an adventure. As adventure, we have some goal, of course, but to achieve the goal is the best part. The journey to the goal is the best part. So I expected the unexpected. So what parents does basically is prepare you for everything at every moment. That's why I think it's so important because what you learn from being a parent, somehow you can resell in the business way. The way you look at things, thanks to your kids, you can see things in a fresh perspective. Sometimes it's the same things you need when you talk to your customer. You bring to them a new perspective. And I think so is a lifelong learning process.
What do you find the most challenging at the moment with parenting? Um, Completely appreciate that every age brings its own challenges and adorable moments. What's the challenges for you right now?
Well, the challenge here is especially the sleeping moment that is not yet so easy. But that is, I mean, we can consider the challenge. But so again, as every challenge, I learn how to deal with that. So the fact I sleep much less than what I was sleeping before, now I learn how to make productive every single minute because that's the way you do it. Now, if you have just 2 minutes, you learn how to use it or waste it. And I think that's an important lesson. It's a continuing challenge. So, and then as you say, I'm not that experienced father. My daughter is almost 5. So, but talking with other parents, they are kids much older. They say you're just beginning. The fun just started. So again, and there is nothing you can prepare. The only things I understood so far, just enjoy the moment, be present at the moment, because that's the only things you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. What's been the most surprising for you since you became a parent?
I would say I basically a new a new source of energy because I accomplished things that I don't even was thinking before. I finished my PhD finally. I published 3 books, and I speak in so many other things about creativity and father. So I think did things that I was not even think about. I think that is the rewards so far that I receive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
That's
basically
really
I learn and I try to learn from my daughter. She has a strong character, and
What's the
and
name?
Eleni. So she gave me another perspective of saying things.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tommaso, for this chat. I really appreciated hearing your journey that was prompted in a way um, by the pandemic in terms of expanding what you could do as a new dad. So that's really cool to hear about. And also thank you for the work you're doing to make the community of dads stronger and to give them a stronger voice. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for letting me share those experience.
Of course, my pleasure. My pleasure. You can follow the podcast on LinkedIn at the Belonging Project Podcast. You can also hit subscribe and stay up to date with our episodes. And do feel free to get in touch with me on coaching@fiorenzarossini.com. Thank you again and see you next time.